The season finale of Cycle of Health, Dr. Rich and company discuss how patients and doctors can work together to prevent medical misunderstandings. Then, we visit the new simulation lab at Syracuse University, where speech pathology students are practicing real-world clinical skills. And on the next Medical Student Minute, Zuri Williams explains that sometimes the best care means giving patients control over their body. That's coming up on Cycle of Health.
This program is brought to you by the members of WCNY. Thank you.
Cancer. It's not just a diagnosis. It's a complex opponent, one that can alter the course of your life. Every move, every decision holds tremendous weight. St. Joseph's Health has partnered with Roswell Park, the region's only nationally designated comprehensive cancer center, to offer you access to personalized therapies and leading oncologists right in our community. Among the many moves you can make, this one holds the power to change your life for the better.
Hello and welcome to the season finale of Cycle of Health. I'm your host, Dr. Rich O'Neill. Well, dear viewers, what happens when a former malpractice attorney, a journalist, a person who's blind, and a psychologist go into a bar? Or rather, onto a TV show? We are about to find out. Joining us today are Mrs. Susan Gray, a person who went blind despite the best efforts of doctors, and also the Blind Services Coordinator at AURORA of Central New York. Ms. Lauren Bavis, a health reporter who teaches at Syracuse University's Newhouse School of Communications. And Mr. Edward McArdle, JD, an attorney who teaches bioethics and humanities at Upstate Medical University. Well, panelists, two things are certain in life: taxes and bad things are going to happen to our bodies, and we are going to die. How can us patients and doctors work together to prevent misunderstandings and improve outcomes?
As part of my background, I've seen medical error in terms of defending lawsuits, and also as a medical ethicist. And I thought briefly I would just say what medical error is, or what's the definition of that.
Yeah.
So medical error is harm that occurs in the course of treatment of a patient that is preventable, okay? So we also have something called known complications of treatment or of the underlying disease process, and that is not medical error. So that is not preventable. For instance, like if you're getting chemo for cancer, you have some harm as part of the treatment.
But the idea goes that way.
Yeah.
You expect that.
You expect that. That's a known complication, a reasonable side effect. So medical malpractice, if you want me to give you a little bit of background on that, is a legal process by which patients who have experienced medical error, called negligence, can seek monetary compensation for any harm that they suffered that was due to that negligence or medical error. And a big distinction I'd like to make is that in most instances, there is a difference is that you need to have a significant physical harm or limitation in order to bring a medical malpractice case. And there are certain standards in courts that make it harder to bring them. So very
something
few
went wrong and an error, and there was a harm from that, and then if there's a harm, then you might want to bring a lawsuit to get compensated.
You might, and we can talk further about that, but they're loosely connected because in most instances, medical error does not lead to a lawsuit.
And I can speak to that a little bit because at 19, I was misdiagnosed with premature macular degeneration down in Texas.
Misdiagnosed?
Yeah, misdiagnosed. And it turned out not to be a correct diagnosis, and what came after that was 2 other diagnoses, one a year later and one just recently about a year ago. So, but I always...
So you finally got diagnosed correctly?
Correctly, yes.
And this is a long time ago it started.
Yeah, and I never felt like, in my case, any harm was done.
But that word harm, both Ed brought it up in the way that you've spoken, Susan, about your experience. Harm means different things to different people, and it sounds like part of what the issue is when there is, a medical error or misdiagnosis is communication, right? Either communication between the physician and the patient or the patient and the physician. And if it feels like the patient, isn't understanding their diagnosis, that can feel like harm. Or if a physician feels like they're not being heard, which they might not be being heard because of the language that they're using, the more medical and scientific language during that diagnosis, there's frustration on both sides. Folks aren't understanding each other.
So there's a misunderstanding leads to frustration. And Ed, I believe you train students now to how to communicate to.
We do. We do. And as part of what I understand with Susan's experience is that it was she was simply told and then left, basically told, and then there wasn't any further follow-up with the physician.
Was that right, Susan?
Yes.
You went in the doctor's office?
Yes.
They told, what did they say?
So I was 19. I was living away from home in another state, and I just woke up one morning and couldn't see the light fixture. So I went to the ophthalmologist expecting that they would fix it, and he said, not only can't we fix it, it's, a progressive eye disease, it's going to move over to your other eye, and it's going to eventually blind you.
Wow,
and
19.
And I had just bought my first new car, a 77 Camaro, and I went out into the parking lot of the ophthalmologist's office and just cried.
Yikes.
Just cried.
Well, what I would say is that was very unfortunate, and by the standards of medical ethics that we teach today, now granted that was a few decades ago, we teach medical students and residents to be supportive, have respect for their patients, to understand that these are difficult times for the patient, to be there to inform them about the disease process or about treatment options, and to be supportive, especially when it's a crushing diagnosis like what you experienced there. Today, we really try to do a shared decision-making process where it's a conversation with the patient, where the patient can express their concerns.
And the doctor can be there with them. And Lauren, you're nodding along.
I teach at Syracuse University, journalism students normally, but I also work with a program to teach medical students to write and kind of think more like journalists. The words that I use in my classroom with the introductory students all the time are writing in a way that's clear, concise, and conversational. And when it comes to giving news to a patient, when it comes to the work that the students I work with and what they do, which is writing plain language articles about issues that they see in the communities where they practice. That's exactly what they should be doing. They should be writing like how they talk to friends and family, because if you are explaining really complicated medical information in a clinical setting in a way that your patient doesn't understand, they're not able to process that diagnosis, they're not able to take and move into the world and follow the advice that maybe they should, and that's where, like you said at the beginning of the show, bad outcomes can happen.
So it sounds like that it's a communication process on both sides. Rather than making a godlike pronouncement, you want to really have a conversation about what's going on. Maybe it's really a bad diagnosis, and you want to support the person emotionally, not only give them the information, but connect with them emotionally and not leave them alone. You're nodding again, Lauren.
Yeah, and I mean, at the same time, as doctors should write more like journalists, patients can also act more like journalists. They can come with a list of questions. They can not be willing to be willing to keep their doctor in the room, not give up, until they answer and feel like they get an answer that they need. But that, to your experience, Susan, is so difficult when you're getting bad news, maybe for the first time. And as a journalist, that's often why patients, I think, end up speaking to journalists rather than doctors, because they're folks who feel like they're actually listening and, maybe sharing their story in a way that feels more meaningful.
If I could add one thing, too, about Susan's experience, I think she said that you weren't harmed by it.
Right.
Is that correct? But I think by the way that we would look at that today as medical ethics, you were harmed. You were emotionally harmed. You suffered a dignity harm. What I would say that is an ethically concerning, a real harm. Unfortunately, it's not a harm that our medical malpractice system would compensate, which generally it will require a significant and permanent physical injury or limitation, but that doesn't mean it's any less of a harm.
Too bad, Susan, you could have sued if you said you gotten some big bucks. Listen, our Cycle of Health team visited the new medical simulation lab at Syracuse University, where speech-language pathology students get a chance to practice real-world clinical skills and making boo-boos right in the classroom. So we can see some of this. Let's take a look.
My name is Brianna Hammerly. I am a speech-language pathologist here at Syracuse University, and I am the simulation facilitator in our adult medical simulation lab. So the mission of the simulation lab was really to provide hands-on experience to connect theory to practice.
I'm Audrey from speech.
Hi.
I'm just here today because I heard that you have some weakness on your left side. So I wanted to look at how your mouth and tongue are working, all those things, because that weakness may be translated to there.
We really had to do some research and look at the data to determine what our students needed and what the learning gaps were in their training. Modern medicine really kind of requires that we are creating clinicians who have the skills and the knowledge to function in these fast-paced, high-energy environments where there's a lot going on. That training can start now on campus before we send them off for externs.
It's been a really good experience to learn about the acute care setting in a safe environment. We were really pushed to become more independent and complete longer simulations. And even though it was definitely scary at first, I think that's why I've seen so much growth in my confidence. Now I'm just gonna give you some different foods. I'm gonna give you water. I'm gonna get more info about your chewing and swallowing, okay?
Communication is huge. They need to take what they learned in class about normal anatomy and physiology and then translate it into patient-friendly language. I've trained the standardized patients. If you don't understand what they explained to you, please let them know that you didn't understand so the students get that feedback that they didn't have it quite right in their translation to the patient. Those communication breakdowns have a huge impact. Your patient needs to make informed decisions about their healthcare, and if they aren't on the same page, if they're not understanding your recommendations, your rationale, your reasoning, those things are going to fall through, and that's when mistakes are made. That's when patients might make decisions that aren't fully informed with the risks and benefits. So that communication is really important. So this is our simulation lab space. When we were designing it, we worked really hard to make it as high fidelity as possible, meaning it should look, feel, sound as close to a hospital room as we can make it in this environment. We have a fully functioning hospital bed. We have a patient bedside chair, so students can work on transferring their patient from the bed to the chair. This is called a head wall, and we're able to simulate suctioning, we're able to simulate oxygen delivery, we have a simulated call bell. So all of the things that they would see in a hospital room, they're able to see here in this environment. We have a vitals monitor up here where we can run simulated vital signs that I can control as a facilitator remotely so their patient can improve or decline as they're working with them.
During our clinical swallow evaluation simulation, at least in my simulation, her vitals tanked and the beeping got faster and faster. And that's just not something, you're going to get experience with unless you're working with a real client out in the communities.
I just feel like here I was able to practice it without a patient, which made me feel even better because if I messed up, then it's okay because I'm not harming somebody. So I think it was really great to practice it with my professor and the actress rather than having a real client there in that moment.
Okay, stick your tongue out straight. Try not to let me push it, okay? Good, other side. Stick your tongue out straight. Try not to let me push it. Okay. Great. Okay.
I messed up a few times in simulation lab. I never felt bad about myself. It's a learning opportunity, and it's a learning moment. It's important to make those mistakes.
If you do make a mistake, you don't know what you don't know until you actually do it. So it was nice to, feel like, okay, like maybe I didn't say that exactly how I wanted to that time, or maybe my directions were as patient-friendly. But that sticks in the back of your mind, and you know that moving forward, hey, that's something I want to work on. But I wouldn't have, necessarily figured that out without having this like safe experience in simulation.
Also, just having our supervisor right there, knowing that, hey, I can try something and I can trust my clinical judgment, knowing that I have a safe space. I have my supervisor here to jump in and give me feedback, but it also strengthens that confidence that we want to build in ourselves before we go out in the field and we have those difficult decisions to make.
Simulation is newer to CSD, or communication sciences and disorders. It's been established in medicine and nursing for a lot longer. It's been really well established as an incredibly functional and powerful tool for training. So I think it's important that we continue this because it's really grounded in learning theory and pedagogy that this is beneficial to our students. So I love that it's now offered here.
Acknowledging mistakes as a healthcare provider, a good idea? What do you think, team?
I can start on that.
Please.
Again, as a medical ethicist, I've been in two different worlds, as medical malpractice.
Right. Oh, you were on the other side, right?
I defended doctors as well as, although I defended other folks as well as part of the practice that I had. But I would say that on that side, it was rare to see someone apologize. And on the ethics side, we're trying to, as part of progress, to get physicians and healthcare institutions to acknowledge error, because it is the right thing to do as part of truth-telling with patients, as part of transparency, as part of promoting trust with the patient, that errors should be disclosed to them so they know what happened. We can also say there's actually been some studies on this, and there was a study at the University of Michigan about a dozen years ago where they went to a full disclosure policy on lawsuits, medical malpractice lawsuits, or on medical error, I should say. And what they found is that there was a 50% drop in medical malpractice lawsuits. So by fully disclosing and being transparent when errors occurred, there was 50%, it ended up leading to 50% fewer lawsuits against doctors for the hospital.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. So if you feel like you're being treated like a human being and a mistake is being acknowledged where the harm to you is being acknowledged, you're less likely to sue somebody who, it sounds like, feels like your partner in this. And would you say that is something that should be shared from the outset, that the possibility of a bad outcome is there, and we, rather than making believe this is certain you're going to get better,
I think you should always, as part of the shared decision-making process when you speak with a patient, and inform them, right? Informed consent. They should know what's going on. As part of that,
let me get Susan's take on this. What do you think, Susan? Are you?
Yes, I think two things.
Yeah.
We need to be our own advocates, but as Lauren mentioned previously, we also need to have an advocate maybe in the room with us. Of course, I went in not expecting a bad diagnosis, but if you're suspecting that, I really think that would be wise to have that support.
And then to talk over the possibilities of bad outcomes if you have a treatment that goes awry or just doesn't go the way we hope. I would certainly like that myself if I went into a physician and I was concerned about something and there was really no certainty about how it would go. I would like to know that from the outset so I could make a plan for the rest of my life, given whatever way it might go. What are some of the other things you're saying, Susan, that it would be a very good idea to bring an advocate with you into the room? I know when I go to the doctor and they tell me something about what's going on with me, I can barely remember what they have to say oftentimes. And I write things down sometimes. Before I go in, I want to remember because I can't remember them. But you're nodding, and Lauren, and what do you think?
Yeah, I think having, like I mentioned, a good list of questions, being willing to be respectful, but also challenge. I mean, we know that doctors don't have a lot of time to spend with patients as well. I feel like more and more research comes out on the small amount of face-to-face time you actually get with your doctor in the doctor's office. So not feeling afraid to say, I don't fully understand that. Can you explain it in a different way? Or even say, I'm still processing this. Can we get another appointment where after I fully come up with maybe the questions I have, or ask for an advocate to be with me? Can we meet and talk again? Yeah.
You train future doctors at some point.
I mean, I talk to them about, they are our future doctors, about what it means to communicate in a more kind of
How do you teach them to do
way.
that?
It's really very fun. We talk to them about, it's the same sort of training I do with journalism students about how to write less academically and more like writing that you'd read on your phone, on a website, in a newspaper.
Everyday language.
Yes, exactly. Plain language is what we call it too. And I think what's been really exciting is to see how excited that these young future doctors in training are to communicate that way with their patients. And they tell me after they have a chance to write this way, often it's frustrating for them because they're not perfect at it, immediately, and neither are journalism students. But they say that they can see taking those skills into clinical settings and speaking with their patients more in a way that they'd be able to understand that might then mitigate some of the issues like you had, Susan. If you're, a young patient, a patient who's surprised by a diagnosis, any of those sort of concerns that can lead to frustration, can lead to the feeling that you were harmed.
One thing I could add there, Rich, is that a way to fully communicate in a quick way with a patient is find out where they're at in terms of their understanding of their illness. Ask them questions about, what do you know so far? And if, you can correct what that they didn't get right, and then you can affirm those things that they did and then move from there. So it helps to get more work done in a doctor's appointment than otherwise.
So the doctor can actually say to the patient, what are you understanding from what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Did I get that right?
Yes.
Oh, look at that. I'm learning how to do this
already.
already.
We teach that.
Any last words? We just have about 2 minutes, I think, before we close the show. We go to the other part of it. Any last words, Susan? You're nodding.
Yeah, I just wanted to emphasize the importance of support, peer support when you're grieving the loss of your vision or any medical condition that's serious. It can be so helpful to people that are experiencing that loss. So please seek that out.
And you actually run some support groups.
Yes, I do 2 support groups for AURORA of Central New York. One is virtual and one is in person, and we have 2 others in the county. So we do ask people to reach out if you or a loved one is struggling with vision loss. Thank you.
So you're welcome. You shared with me the other day, you call these the blind leading the blind.
Yes, kind of tongue-in-cheek, but we have a very good sense of humor in our groups.
That's good. Before we wrap our show today, it's time for our Medical Student Minute. This week, Ms. Zuri Williams explains that sometimes the best care means giving patients control over their own body. Imagine that. Let's take a look.
Hi everyone, I'm Zuri Williams with one of the most surprising things that I've learned in medical school. In the emergency department, patients can perform their own swabs to detect for sexually transmitted infections. And research shows they're just as accurate as the clinicians. And another surprise, a pelvic exam is not always needed for STI testing unless there's red flag symptoms of abdominal pain or pelvic inflammatory disease. This matters because pelvic exams can be uncomfortable and when done by unfamiliar ED staff, stressful. Patients collecting their own swabs is a simple way to make the experience more respectful. It reduces exams and is a trauma-informed approach while still giving us the info we need for good, safe treatment. So yeah, sometimes the best care means giving a person more control over their own body. I'm Zuri Williams with my Medical Student Minute.
That's about all the time we have. I want to thank our guest, Susan Gray, Blind Services Coordinator at AURORA of Central New York, Lauren Bavis, Professor of Practice at SU's Newhouse School, and Ed McArdle, JD, who teaches bioethics and humanities at Upstate Medical University. To hear our companion community FM radio show, Check Up from the Neck Up, visit wcny.org/communityfm. And if you'd like to revisit this episode and past seasons, visit wcny.org/cycle of health or my website, drneckup.org. For Cycle of Health, I'm psychologist Dr. Neckup, Rich O'Neill. Thanks for watching. And please write us about the shows you'd like to see. We'll see you next season.
This program is brought to you by the members